Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CCISO Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Metrics and key performance indicators are essential tools for managing and improving a security program. They provide objective visibility into how well security controls are performing, allowing leadership to understand effectiveness beyond assumptions or anecdotal evidence. Without metrics, decisions about security improvements, investments, or risk prioritization are based on opinion rather than data. Metrics translate the operational realities of security into business-aligned language, helping leaders understand how control performance connects to organizational risk. Metrics also support accountability by making control ownership measurable. When a team is responsible for a control, performance metrics give them a way to demonstrate success or identify where support is needed for external audits and regulatory compliance. Metrics provide the evidence that policies are enforced and that security practices are consistently monitored. A strong metrics program reinforces the CISO's strategic role by linking technical execution to executive assurance. To be effective, security metrics must meet several criteria. First, they must be relevant. A metric should be directly tied to a business goal, a risk mitigation objective, or a compliance requirement. If it doesn't help answer a meaningful question or support a decision, it is unlikely to be useful. Metrics must also be actionable. If a team sees the metric but can't do anything to influence it, the metric becomes noise. Good metrics are measurable using verifiable and consistent data sources. This ensures they can be reproduced and compared over time. Timeliness matters too. A metric that reflects the status of a control from 6 months ago is unlikely to support current decisions. Finally, metrics must be understandable by the intended audience. A technical engineer may be able to interpret raw log counts, but executives require summarization, trends, and visual representation. If a metric can't be clearly explained, it is unlikely to be used effectively. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. There are several types of security metrics that CISOs must track and understand. Operational metrics capture day-to-day activities related to security controls. These include the number of block threats, failed login attempts, or endpoint alerts. Risk metrics provide insight into the organization's risk posture. This includes residual risk levels, incident frequency, or the number of unpatched vulnerabilities. Compliance metrics demonstrate alignment with standards and obligations. These include control coverage percentages, policy acknowledgement rates, or audit readiness scores. Efficiency metrics help measure the responsiveness of security functions. This includes time to detect, time to contain, and time to remediate incidents or control failures. Maturity metrics track how standardized and optimized security processes are across the organization. Examples include the percentage of controls with documented owners or the frequency of policy updates. By combining different types of metrics, CISOs can create a comprehensive view of both control health and program maturity. Understanding the difference between KPIs and KRIs is essential for reporting to executives. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, track how well the organization is executing specific tasks or objectives. They measure effectiveness and efficiency. Key risk indicators, or KRIs, on the other hand, measure the likelihood or potential impact of future adverse events. KRIs are predictive. They help the organization understand where future failures might occur. Both KPIs and KRIs are needed for proactive governance. For example, the percentage of systems patched within the defined window is a KPI, while the percentage of third-party vendors overdue for security review is a KRI. The CISO must be able to interpret both and explain them in business terms. Rather than focusing on the metric itself, the CISO should emphasize what it means for operations, strategy, and risk. This translation is key to securing leadership support and driving action. Selecting the right KPIs begins with identifying the goals of each control or security process. Every KPI should reflect whether a control is meeting its intended purpose. Controls designed for prevention should have KPIs related to blocked attempts or failure rates. Controls for detection should include accuracy and time to alert. Each KPI should align with external frameworks where applicable. For example, NIST CSF and ISO 27001 Annex A include high-level control objectives that can be mapped to specific metrics. The data source for each KPI must be defined, as well as how the data will be collected, how often, and what calculation method will be used. Thresholds and alert conditions should also be established. For instance, if failed login attempts exceed a certain level, the metric should trigger review. Control owners must be involved in KPI definition to ensure that the metrics are feasible and that they align with operational realities. Security metrics require tools and platforms for efficient collection, aggregation, and reporting. Common data sources include CM platforms, vulnerability scanners, identity and access management systems, and incident management tools. Governance, risk, and compliance platforms consolidate data from these sources and allow teams to monitor and visualize performance. Dashboards provide real-time tracking of metrics and highlight deviations from expected norms. Automated reporting reduces the time and effort required to produce updates and helps avoid errors. These tools must support access control so that sensitive metrics are only visible to authorized users. Data integrity must also be protected, particularly if metrics are used for audit or regulatory purposes. The CISO is responsible for ensuring that tools are configured to produce meaningful outputs and that metric definitions remain aligned with changing technology and control environments. Reporting metrics effectively means tailoring information to the needs of the audience. Technical and operational teams may need detailed views with daily or weekly updates. Executives and board members need summaries that emphasize trends, thresholds, and outcomes. Visual tools help simplify complex information. Charts, trend lines, and RAG-coded summaries can help stakeholders understand what is going well and where intervention is needed. Reporting should include explanations for any deviations, gaps, or anomalies. Context matters. If a metric suddenly drops, it's important to clarify whether it's due to system changes, reporting delays, or genuine performance issues. Reports should highlight progress toward goals and any service-level agreement compliance. Transparency is essential. If there are limitations to the data or assumptions made in the analysis, they should be noted clearly. This builds trust and reinforces the credibility of the CISO and their team. Metrics are not just for reporting, they are powerful tools for driving improvement. Underperforming controls can be identified and targeted for redesign, training, or replacement. Bottlenecks in processes can be flagged and reviewed. Metrics also help prioritize investments. If a particular area consistently underperforms and represents a high business risk, it becomes a candidate for additional budget or strategic focus. Metrics can also be used for benchmarking. By comparing internal performance over time or against industry baselines, organizations can assess whether they are improving or falling behind. A well-executed metrics program also supports a culture of performance and accountability. When teams know their results are being measured and reviewed, they are more likely to maintain control integrity and act on issues early. However, not all metrics programs are successful. Common pitfalls must be avoided. One is focusing on quantity over quality. Measuring the number of alerts without considering how many are valid creates misleading impressions of success. Another pitfall is failing to tie metrics to actual business or risk objectives. A metric that doesn't support decision-making is wasted effort. Ownership must also be clear. If no one is responsible for acting on a metric, it may be ignored. Overloading reports with too much data is another risk. Too many metrics can overwhelm stakeholders and reduce the likelihood that important trends are seen. Finally, metrics must be updated regularly. As controls, risks, and threats evolve, so too must the metrics that track them. A stale metric provides a false sense of security and undermines strategic planning. The CCISO exam includes specific focus on metrics and KPIs. Candidates will need to understand definitions such as baseline, threshold, trend, KPI, and KRI. Scenario-based questions may require interpreting metrics, identifying which ones support executive decision-making, or determining how to respond to anomalies. Candidates must also understand how metrics integrate into broader governance functions, including audit, risk, and compliance. The exam expects that CISOs can design metrics programs, ensure metric accuracy, and present information clearly to both technical and non-technical audiences. Metrics are not just an operational concern. They are a key enabler of strategic leadership. By mastering this topic, CISO candidates demonstrate that they can deliver measurable, actionable, and business-aligned security performance reporting. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber CISO Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.